At first glance, the classic Sonic titles are like twins. Look at their charming title screens, these vibrant colors, the jammin' tunes. While you'd expect slapping a 2, 3, or CD onto a game would mean it plays like the game it succeeds, that is not the case here. At least, not completely. The core approach to level design within these 4 games is surprisingly much more complex than you might expect. So let's dive into my first 4-fold analysis with the first act of Green Hill, Emerald Hill, Angel Island, and Palm Tree Panic. It should come as no surprise that 3's introduction is the best. Yes, this is relevant to the level design. You're feeling cocky in your super form till you get power scaled by Knuckles, who establishes himself as a bad guy by stealing your crap and running away. Dang. What a jerk. This incites chase. For all you know, you might be able to catch up to him if you run fast enough. So you blast off to the right where you're met with... It's like the level itself is working against you, as it should because you've entered hostile territory, foreshadowed by Knuckles, who knows this terrain much better than you do. That much is clear when, you see him burst out of the friggin' ground. 1 is a bit more subtle, where you learn what's going on after you destroy a few bots and see harmless animals pop out of them. It adds a dark twist to the enemies you fight, for you now know that no matter how fearsome an enemy is, that most likely there's a poor animal inside being used to power it. CD throws you into a mad dash up a wall where after you encounter some badniks, with a twist, you can see that the flora of the planet is what's fueling them, not the animals. Upon exploring the place, you encounter these past and future signposts, where if you enter the former, you'll discover the machine creating these bots, giving you a feel for how long this has been going on. 2, unfortunately, has nothing that makes its first level stand out amongst the 4 when it comes to the introduction. You destroy a few bots and see some animals pop out, just like Green Hill. It even looks a little bit like it too, almost as though you're just playing a different act with enhanced visuals. Here's the first time where Green Hill's paths diverge. Oh wait, you wouldn't know that when playing the game because the camera only shows you the top path, so for all you know, this hole could be a bottomless pit. You can hold down to pan the camera lower, which shows you the top of a tree, hinting that a lower path exists, but even if you cleverly come to this conclusion and take a leap, you might end up hitting one of these spikes along the floor. My grievance here isn't a huge one, but for the very first splitting path on the very first level on your very first game in the franchise, to not be nice and concise is a little rough. Sonic 3's first clear branching path is here, where a mere jump grants you vision to what's above you. If you had taken these swinging ropes earlier on the main route, then you would have been brought to this upper route by default, but you're always given the option to let go if you want to see what's below you. One might argue that this presents a similar problem to Sonic 1, where the player is unsure if they'll fall into a death pit should they go down, but I think it's unlikely for a first-timer to think that here, considering that the beginning establishes just how grounded you are from the get-go. Green Hill, on the other hand, really makes you feel like you're high up and in a dangerous spot. I could see this destructible part here giving players concern over falling, and that's a fair point, but I still think the vibe you'll get on average is that there's ground beneath you, which is good. You may have noticed earlier that I said this was the first clear branching path. There is a branching path earlier in the level here, where if you jump around you can make out that the ceiling kind of goes up a bit, which might imply that something is up there. If you screw around a bit and hit this hidden spring, you'll launch up to this hidden route. All of that is all well and good, but we'll talk about it more a little later. CD's first branching path is on one compact screen, but it fails to deliver on the charm. The top path is a spring to a higher area and a straight line. The bottom path is a straight line with a couple enemies, springs, and some goodies. It's serviceable, but not all that memorable with all these straight lines and lack of variety in terrain elevation and background detail. 2's bottom path had these cool tunnel-looking spaces with waterfalls that cascaded over them, not to mention the spring that sends you flying down this path at high speeds, and the spikes that get introduced in a non-threatening manner. The top path had a spring that if you landed on would launch you into the sky to collect rings, followed by a slope down into a spring that sends you off further ahead. 2 really knew how to say a lot with a little here, and made a cute little section that's fun to go through. Going back to Sonic 1, because I kinda bagged on it a bit here, there's a splitting path in the middle of the stage that has some beauty to it. You're simply shown a long downward slope with some rings rings on it, implying it's the speed path, and some platforms above you, implying it's the platforming path. The speed path keeps heading down, you loop around, spin on through multiple tunnels, and fly into the air. At no point does it force you to stop and take your time. This isn't to say that future levels that force you to stop during a speed section are doing something completely wrong, but for the first level of this new franchise called Sonic the Hedgehog, it wants to show you up front one of the main cool things that this guy can do. The platforming path hits you with two horizontal moving platforms in opposite directions. They may be a little tricky to time your landings on, considering it's your first time seeing platforms this thin, but get the hang of that and you get a ring box as a reward. The next three platforms don't move at all. At first. They actually fall after a little bit, and if that's enough to catch you off guard, then you have every option to go back and try again because they respawn. The second falling platform has an enemy directly in the way, which you can use to chain your jump for your landing. Funny enough, this bot's projectile attack doesn't aim for where you are on the platform, but where you will be if you're still standing on the platform as it falls, meant to serve as a punishment for not reacting in time. Still on this route, we've got another new set of platforms. Vertical ones. You've got to leap left and right when they're within your reach, and if you choose to go higher instead of taking this side route here, then you'll have another new situation where you've got to leap from a vertical platform to a horizontal one. This is the highest point of the level, and it's rather peaceful. There's tons of flowers, tons of rings, and no foes in sight. The end of it has some falling platforms, but they're in a more calm pattern, as though they're gently lowering you to the rest of the level after all of your efforts. You can even see here that the last platform it brings you towards is a horizontally moving one that remains floating above a ton of rings that you can drop down to if you want. One route prioritizes speed, the other platforming. Both very important aspects of this game that mix and match in interesting ways, and depending on which route you took will introduce you to different aspects of each core part of the game. Interestingly enough, despite Sonic 2's Emerald Hill taking after the looks of Sonic 1's Green Hill, it doesn't seem all that interested in having a dedicated section to learning about precision platforming. There's a platform here, a platform there, and we do have a few horizontally moving platforms in this section, but landing on the first one is a little awkward since you're kind of pushed to use the spring, but when you do, the platform is off screen. Even if you do manage to traverse them all, you're expected to make a pretty big leap, almost needing to chain off the bot here to reach the top of the loop-de-loop. I'm not against this section existing, but I can see how someone may find it a little frustrating even trying to start it. At least you can try again if you'd like, but the main point I'm trying to get at is Sonic 2's focus for this level is a lot less about precision platforming like Sonic 1's is, and a lot more about maximizing speed. Sonic 3 has the elemental shields which only Sonic can use. You'll find that when you obtain one of these power-ups that the surrounding level accommodates for their usage. Bubble Shield, water all around you that you can breathe in indefinitely with secrets below to slam down and reveal. Fire Shield, open area to dash around in the air and gain speed at your leisure. Electric Shield, rings around to attract and high ledges to double jump up to. This design sounds obvious, but look at what Sonic 1 does here. You're first introduced to invincibility on this lower path. It's not an amazing introduction. I would have preferred if there were some more enemies in the way to actually show you that you're invincible, but nonetheless, you learn. But if we cheat a little bit and fast forward to Act 2 here, you naturally want to go all out, rushing through the level, and you're dead because what you were actually supposed to do here was slow down and take your time platforming after you were given invincibility with fast-paced music meant to hype you up. These contradicting concepts of go fast and go slow gives this section poor conveyance, which will ultimately result in frustration. If, say, this invincibility was replaced with Sonic 3's Electric Shield, which grants you a mid-air jump, then all of a sudden this section ain't half bad since you'll find yourself using the mid-air jump to avoid falling into the spikes, thereby improving this section because the power-up and level structure now complement one another. Sonic 3 wasn't perfect with this stuff though, as the first placement of its power sneakers, which grant a speed boost, don't let Sonic unleash his full speed due to the narrow space here with an enemy, multiple spikes, and constant springs that send you the opposite way. Sonic 2 though had its power sneakers in the perfect spot here, where you're blasting through loops in an open space, becoming one with the world. It's this beautiful merging of new mechanics with level design that makes great platformers so great. Sonic 3 also had a unique problem to tackle when it came to designing levels that these other three games didn't have. path, and that was playing as Tails. Picking him instead of Sonic alone granted you flight, albeit with a limited time, with the drawback that he can't use elemental shields. This ability is a big deal, so let's see how the level accommodates for it. The beginning area has practically no ceiling whatsoever, so if you were to screw around and start flying as Tails, you can see from the start just how high you can go. When playing as Sonic, grabbing these power sneakers mentioned earlier is pretty unlikely for a first-time player, since you would have to spot the spring here on the tree and have enough speed going left to land yourself up there. Whereas if you are playing as Tails, flying around in the open sky, you can discover this ledge effortlessly. This splitting path we talked about earlier, meant for Tails. Yeah, Sonic can reach it, but that's only with first-time players that are really taking their time to explore around and find the spring in this tree. Whereas if you are playing as Tails, this higher route is in a clear flying path for you to land on and explore this high-up location. You even get the sense for how fast Tails' flight can go as you let yourself slowly fall down lower in elevation. It's important that sections like this exist so that people who pick Tails don't end up constrained in tight spaces. The developers could have easily just designed this level for Sonic only and let you play Tails as more of a side thing, but there was genuine effort into making sure both characters were accommodated for. Sonic 2 was when the spin dash was first introduced. Using it grants you a burst of speed from a still position without having to build it up like in Sonic 1. There are many parts of the level where you're presented with steep slopes, some of which turn into walls. You could back up and build up speed to clear these, but a spin dash grants you the perfect amount of speed to clear them too. If you're the kind of person that really likes experimenting with new mechanics, then you may even try to spin dash backwards through a loop-de-loop or even a corkscrew, which is a whole lot of fun. Question: why didn't you destroy all the robot generators in Sonic CD on your first playthrough? Who knows, maybe you did, maybe you used a guide, or maybe you haven't played it. But the fact of the matter is, most players don't do this even though the game really wants you to. For context, most levels in Sonic CD have 4 versions of themselves: the present, the past, the bad future, and the good future. When beginning one of these levels, you'll start in the present. There is one robot generator located in every past version of a level. They're important because you need to destroy every one without fail in order to see the good ending of the game. You could also gather all the time stones to see the good ending via completing all the special stages, but these function a bit clunky and personally aren't really all that fun. Sonic Mania improved on them a lot. Another thing destroying a robot generator will do is make it so when you go to the future version of the level, you go to the good future instead of the bad future, which is the default. Conceptually, this idea Sonic CD had of time traveling to past versions of the level and changing the future version is awesome, but its execution is lacking here for multiple reasons. Through the game alone, you're not made aware that you need to be looking for these robot generators in the past and destroy them, which on its own is fine. The game doesn't have to hit you with a cutscene letting you know what's going on, so long as this first level helps you learn about them with its design. So let's see how well it does, and we're already off to a decent start. On the main path, we see a future sign and a past sign. If you touch either one, it starts spinning and you get a glowy light trail behind you. Entering the tunnel will speed you fast enough to automatically catapult you to either the past or future, depending on which sign you touched. It shows you that time traveling in this game isn't as simple as making contact with a signpost. You need to build up enough speed to pull it off. Cool. Assuming you went to the past because that signpost was closer to the tunnel, we should now expect the robot generator to pop up on this route any second now as an introduction to what they are. And yet, it is nowhere to be found on this path. It's instead at the very end of the level, at the highest point of the level, requiring a great deal of platforming to go out of your way for it. Remember, as a first-time player, you're likely not even gonna know to look for this. Sure, if you're the kind of person that explores and takes their time more, then you'll find it by chance, but there's a great deal of players that are just going to go fast to the right and miss this generator completely. But let's be a little generous here. Let's say every player in existence finds this generator on their first time playing. The placement is still poor because it's at the end of the level. Recall that destroying a generator will allow you to access the good future version of the level you're on. Super cool concept, and yet when you destroy this generator in the past version of the level and leap to the right, the level's over. The game doesn't show you what your efforts in destroying this generator actually actually accomplished. Here's how I personally would have designed it. You start off in the normal version of the level. When you run up this wall, you hit a future signpost, where you're then launched into the bad future version of the level. It's clear from visuals alone that it's not a place you want to be in. There can be a cute diverging path or two here, but they should both ultimately converge to a main path where there is a singular signpost that says past. You touch it and go the only way you can, into the tunnel. This gives you a lot of speed, and you time travel again, but this time into the past. The world's changed again. It's not as scary looking as before. It feels older, more mystical. As you travel along the lone path, you run into a strange machine. It looks out of place compared to everything else. You destroy it and touch the future signpost that's right beside it. Can't miss it. After gaining enough speed for the third time, you're sent way into the future once more. But what's this? It looks a lot nicer now, way better than when you saw it at the opener. It's here where the level would then start to branch out a bit more, with a lot more options for players that want to explore, because now the level can afford to. Why? Because it seamlessly taught you what a bad future was, what the past was, what a robot generator looks like, and what destroying a robot generator does for the future. This is the moment in the level where you've already experienced a bit of what the game wants you to see, and you're thrown a curveball. It doesn't have to be a challenge or even an obstacle. It could be all visual. Part of the reason why Angel Island is so memorable is because the luscious jungle you've been traveling through suddenly gets set on fire halfway through the act. It spawns so many questions. First off, you were just in the middle of chasing that guy that took off with all your stuff. So what's the deal with this machine? Did he send it after you? But it damages what you assume is that guy's home, so why would he do that? Could there be another hostile party you've got to deal with here? It's not clear from the beginning, and that's perfectly fine. It gives you something to think about as you explore more of what the island has to offer. Sonic CD's twist comes pretty early with the time travel, and we kind of cover that. It wants you to know that this isn't any ordinary platformer as early as possible. Sonic 1, being the first out of the bunch, doesn't need its twist to be anything crazy. Even something simple to catch the player off guard in this fast-paced running platformer would be good enough. And what better piece of geometry than the good old loop-de-loop? Oh, come on, Zoomzyke, the loop-de-loop? That's the twist of the level? Hey, don't diss the loop-de-loop. Players loved this twist so much that it ended up becoming a staple of Sonic design to this day. It immediately established that speed is king in this game, and is enough for you to really break the physics engine by going up and down and all around. The tunnels ahead follow up the loop-de-loop and really bump up the speed, ultimately launching you way up to the top path. It's an exhilarating section that serves its purpose well. Sonic 2 looked at what its predecessor did and said, you know what's better than one loop-de-loop? Two loop-de-loops, which are also sloping down in elevation and send you into a 3, potentially 4 spring chain. It even takes its singular corkscrew from earlier and doubles it for maximum whoa points. It's a literal twist, which is so good, the spring can make you try it a second time. There's a reason why, despite how visually similar the classic Sonic titles look, that people's opinions on their quality differ quite a bit, and a lot will come down to taste. Sonic 1, despite what a lot of people say, was not about going fast 24/7. It was about keeping momentum in your inputs to properly clear more precise platforming sections and speedier ones that require quick reaction time. Sonic 2 chose to see what Sonic would look like if more emphasis was placed on speed instead of platforming, even going so far as to design an ability that from a standstill grants you a burst of speed. Sonic 3 focused on designing pathways that differed based on which character the player selected, what elemental power-up they had at the moment, and what their playstyle may be, which gives it a lot of replay value. Sonic CD flipped the genre on its head through its inclusion of multiple variations of the same level, allowing the player to shift between them and even change the level's environment for the better. While they all certainly have a lot in common, there's tons of stuff, both obvious and subtle, that sets each of them apart, complete with their own set of fans that live on to this day. I wish we could have also covered Sonic and Knuckles. I set the schedule up, he said he would be here, but he ended up being a no-show, so what a guy, right? Thanks for watching, thank you so much to all of my beautiful members, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.